Hello, I'm Tony, and today we are taking a break and going back to Providence Oaks in Lake, a game currently free from Prime Gaming until around June the 11th, I think. Amazon are not making it that easy to check for some reason. The game revolves around the story of Meredith, a programmer back in the 80s who is returning to her hometown for a couple of weeks of rest by being a post office worker. Which I can tell you is not a holiday if you do that in London. However, back in Providence Oaks, by a beautiful lake, it is a very chilled time. You're going to deliver mail, get to know the people of the town, hear a few stories, and maybe get romantically involved with someone. First off, let's talk about the graphics and sound. The graphics have a painted feel, especially noticeable in the human models, which strangely adds to the chill vibe somehow. The design choice doesn't hurt the pretty views you get of the forest and the lake as you travel around, even on the lowest settings. I did have to drop it to low quality and set the resolution to 720p to give me the most frames I could get, because I wasn't getting very many on higher res or higher quality. To be fair, I didn't see a huge amount of difference between the two. I should be playing a comparison in the background. Even at 720, it's not like I'm getting huge FPS, which you're going to notice, so don't hold that against the game because of my badly performing laptop. I did still find it playable at these settings though. The sound is a standout for me, kind of because it didn't stand out, if that makes sense. The voice acting was good enough that the characters actually just felt like people, not pixels being voiced.
Here and there, and the occasional grey hair, but by gosh, it's you, all right.
I don't think you can really ask for more than that from voice acting. And because at its heart this is really a kind of interactive novel, that's kind of important. The relationships you build with the characters and the involvement you get into the stories going on in this town kind of form the core of the game. So it really helps that these feel like reasonably real people. On top of the voice acting, there are songs included in the game, mostly when you're driving around, but also if you're in shops that are clearly licensed. Not just because the settings tell you that they are, but because they sound professional. I don't think I can turn the sound up to play them to you, because this video will just be taken down straight away. But it does make driving around a nicer experience than just listening to engine noise, especially because you spend quite a bit of time in the van. The gameplay here is split between your job as a post office worker and conversations with the characters around the town. Delivering the post is done in the aforementioned van, and it takes quite a lot of driving, but actually is stress-free. You don't have any kind of time limit, so you don't have to rush. If your driving skills aren't the best, it doesn't really matter. No one cares if you crash into them, including the police. I didn't do that on purpose. And even if you do manage to flip the van somehow, and you can, there's a single key press to just reset it back on the road, so you can enjoy driving around the pretty landscape without really having to pay too much attention. Delivery itself is as user-friendly as it can be. You can't deliver a parcel or a letter to the wrong address. It just doesn't let you. You also have a map which lists the addresses that need deliveries, and whether they're a parcel or a letter, and it also gives you markers to all the locations on the map. This also includes incidental quests, because there are some. You have to get parcels out of the back, so you have to walk round to the rear of the van and actually interact with it to get a parcel out. And you have to deliver it to the door. Meredith is extremely impatient. If someone hasn't answered the door within like a second, she's done. The parcel's dumped at the door and off she goes. Letters go into mailboxes outside, so that's just nice and simple. You also have a mini-map on the main screen, which makes it even easier to see where you need to deliver to. You can literally line yourself up with the marker, and that's where you got to deliver. I'm not quite sure why, but it's actually fun for a while driving around delivering the mail. The controls for the van aren't the most responsive, particularly when you're going a bit faster, but that might be accurate to big vans. They're fine, you can get around pretty easily without too much of an issue, to the point where you can actually enjoy driving a little bit. And obviously, given there's no penalties for bad driving, you can ignore the rules of the road and do what you like, which can be fun in itself. Delivering the mail is often used as a way to instigate conversations with the characters in the small town, which is the second part of the game. You have options for what to say in these conversations, and there are meaningful choices to be made. For example, you have the option to help someone out by taking pictures for them. If you help, you get a camera and you can take photos. If you say no, you don't get it. It's totally up to you.
Is that a compliment?
Outside of conversations, you also have a choice of what to do each night, and this can affect the story too.
Alright.
I've only replayed the first week of the game, but I did notice minor differences in what happened, so it does feel like they're genuinely impactful. There are conversations where the choices you make feel like they're going to make a difference, but they don't. They're not really story beats, they're just conversations, so I don't think they were ever going to affect the game anyway. The choices you make when you're in a conversation with your best friend and the potential romantic companions definitely have consequences. The game does kind of feel like it's trying to push you to make a romantic connection, which might be a bit unwelcome if you don't want to get kissy-kissy with someone. But if that's the reason that you're playing the game, I don't think you'll mind. I can't really talk too much about it. Any more chat will probably spoiler the story, and that's the whole point of the game, is to see what happens. There are plenty of stories going on, and a couple of surprises, and room for romance, so if that's what you're up for, it's all here. Playing through the 2 weeks you're on holiday took me about 4.5 hours, and I quite enjoyed it, despite not being a fan of the drama and interactive novel genre. There are a few clunky lines of dialogue, but it's generally well written, and I did want to know how all the stories panned out. I found the delivery part of the game a little bit confusing. Not the mechanics and how to do it, they're straightforward, but more the point of why I'm doing it. After a week, I was kind of over the delivery as a game in itself, and saw it just as a mechanism to move stories forward and trigger those character interactions. Deliveries that didn't trigger these story beats were a bit of a waste of time, and there's quite a lot of them in comparison to the ones that do trigger. For those that are focused on the story, wanting to see what the next part is, this may start to feel like a frustrating waste of time. Without it, it would take quite a large chunk off of that 4.5 hours, so it may have been a pacing choice, I don't know, but I do know it started to wear a little bit thin towards the end of my time. That desire that I felt was happening to push romance didn't really work for me. I felt forced into making a choice of declaring strong feelings or friend-zoning someone like almost instantly. I would have preferred a more sensible, yes, let's carry on dating and see how it goes option that just wasn't presented to me. It does go to show that I did feel invested enough in the game to care about those options, so bonus points there. However, those bonus points had been taken away because I wasn't able to pet the cats. Sorry. I enjoyed this. It was a good short game that definitely has some replayability given the different choices that will affect the outcome. If you do like games focused around character interactions, romance and a bit of drama, this is well worth a look. Don't be put off by the delivery subgame. It's so forgiving and also leads to stories enough to not become a burden until late in the game. This is a recommend from me. Okay, I've made my choices, I've broken some hearts, so I'm off. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.